We talk a lot about the big three, Rivian, Tesla, and Lucid, and there's a lot of good things to be said about all of them. And the fact that they're all here making cars that I see on the road every day speaks volumes of how they're succeeding more or less as companies. Obviously, there's whole articles and videos and everything on the financials and like people's getting excited and people getting nervous about the future. I don't totally know the future, but what I do say is I see these cars on the road every day. I meet a lot of owners who love them. And here at Out of Spec, we have Rivians, we have Teslas. We don't have a Lucid at the moment, but maybe we should change that because they are quite handy to have around. Range exchange is a thing, you know? But sometimes it doesn't go to plan. Recently, we had our Tesla Cybertruck actually bought back by Tesla. And if we hadn't, we would have just lemon lawed it because it had so many issues. And so these two things can exist at the same time. Love of a product and even what a company's doing, but also concern and frustration at when the product doesn't work or when service and those issues don't come to fruition like you maybe hoped or maybe even were sold when you bought the product. So with that in mind, I want to bring in my friend Michael, who has been a Rivian owner for a while, but recently has decided to not be a Rivian owner. So we have a lot to unpack here. So let me bring Michael on board and we'll figure out what's going on. Hey, Michael, how are you?
How are you, Jordan?
Doing great. Sounds like I'm doing better than you are at the moment with the Rivian challenges you've encountered. So I want to back up really quick and I guess introduce yourself. I know you're a bit of an EV enthusiast for those of you who see you on X as Michael L. Rauch. And yeah, you're a hardcore viewer and friend. And we even saw you on, we're crossing the country doing our little truck race. And yeah, you've been a Rivian owner before, right? And also recently?
Yeah. First, I love Rivian. I want to preface all this with I absolutely love the company and their ethos and the community. The Rivian community is a great group of people. I had a Gen 1 Rivian R1T, and it was rock solid. Loved that truck. And so when it came time, my wife's Model X had been in an accident. Neither one of us were driving it. It just got hit, rear-ended very badly. We decided to we have to replace a car. So at that point, I was like, hey, I love Rivian. She drove my R1T, and there were times where she would drive it and be like, I couldn't get it back. So I was like, okay, time to get a new car. New Gen 2 R1S coming out. So in December, we purchased Bluebell, her Gen 2 R1S Tri-Max Ascend trim. Basically, everything you could put on the thing, maxed out. We had some hiccups because we made that order in July and didn't get delivery until December, which was a little bit of a frustration, but okay, understanding manufacturing happens. And then that was the best day was picking it up.
It was downhill from there a bit.
She was so excited and she loves the vehicle. She does love the vehicle when it's working. But at 800 miles, we had a complete front engine or front motor failure that left her on the side of the road, having to call me to come down and the flatbed and go to the Rivian service center. And we live in central PA and also the Gulf Coast, so we kind of go back and forth. But this happened in Pennsylvania or in Maryland, and we worked with the Glen Burnie, Maryland service center. And I just want to say wonderful things. The staff there has been fantastic. Charles, the service manager we've dealt with, has been dynamite and really made us feel good about that initial failure and really diagnosing it and going through it. They ended up replacing the front drive unit, and then out of an abundance of caution, they replaced the rear drive units. So basically, we got new motors on the entire truck, or on the R1S. And we felt really good about it. It was there for a while, but we got a call every day, what the progress was, what the next steps were, what they were doing in testing and verification, and the Rivian came back. fine. And then was like, okay, this is our hiccup. I've heard of people with EVs having hiccups. I've never really experienced a major one. Most of mine have been fit and finish things like typical Tesla owners have, but nothing major. And then we were like, okay, this is our turn in the barrel. You know, motors replaced, car's going to be great from there. So about 2 or 3 weeks later, we went to our home down south, and it was about a 1,100-mile road trip. And about the second day, my wife started saying to me she felt like the AC was inconsistent, especially when you're getting into the warmer part of the country. And then when we got there, I checked it, and it started throwing all these errors, thermal fault failures, HVAC failures. So we called our service center back in Glen Burnie, Maryland, to talk to Charles, and we were like, okay, hey, we're in Alabama, the southern end of Alabama, and there's not a Rivian service center. What are we doing here? And he was great. Reached out to his regional manager, and the nearest center was going to be Atlanta. But his regional manager, knowing the situation we had before, wanted to keep it in his district, so they picked it up, flatbedded it to Memphis, Tennessee service center, because that was in his region. And it was gone again for a little while, and basically had to have HVAC and thermal repairs done to it. And then it came back, and it was like, okay, are we going to be all right with this? And then shortly after that, we actually had Colton from your guys' come down and do like a paint correction and ceramic coat. And we're really excited about the vehicle again. And then we came back north this summer. And about a week ago, my wife thought there was my daughter was in the passenger seat and thought she felt water hitting her leg. And it was raining out. So she was like, my wife's like, well, it must have got on the door when you had the door open and it got on you, no big deal. And then the very next day after that, there was no rain, and went around a corner and a pool of water came out of the, where the connection to the passenger sun visor comes into the roof, where that hole is, it just came, boom, into her lap. So that's where we are now. And I kind of made up my mind, I think, after talking with my wife this past weekend, that as much as we love it and we love Rivian, that it's time for us to move on from it. We've lost all confidence in the vehicle. I've had communications with people from Rivian, and they're always great. Hey, service is going to take care of it and fix it, and we have a service center appointment next Tuesday, and I'm sure they're going to fix it. But there comes a point, and I think I've heard this before from some other owners. I know a Lightning owner that just experienced something very similar and did a buyback, where and with you guys with the Cybertruck, where you just lose confidence in the vehicle. Like you rely on your vehicle to get you from point A to point B, and if every time you get in it and go, okay, what's today going to bring? Am I going to be great? And you go do your things and come back, and you're like, oh, that was a great day. Or you go, I'm going to be 60 miles down the road and I don't know what's going to happen. It might break on me. So that's kind of the long story, short story, however you want to look at it.
Right. Yeah. I saw your post on X/Twitter, and it's kind of heartbreaking in a way, because I know you guys were very excited about this SUV. It is awesome, but as you mentioned, you were kind of an early adopter of the Tri-Max, that hadn't been out for very long. So it could be an early build thing. I mean, it's hard to tell. That's largely what it was with our Cybertruck. I think like newer Cybertrucks have less issues, but do sometimes still have issues. So it's not like they're immune to it. And we all know, seeing the recalls and challenges with production and even sales, although that could be related to a number of different things now. But there's a level of that didn't feel fully baked when it was launched.
Mm-hmm.
With the Rivians, it feels like, with Gen 2 now, a lot of things were really nicely baked, but it is surprising that I do experience some Gen 1 R1 vehicles, and I'm like, wow, this feels really, really solid. And so I do sometimes wonder if some cost cutting was made here and there, which does improve things sometimes. And, especially if that's what keeps the company afloat, then they have to figure out where can they cut costs that shouldn't affect the end consumer. But sometimes we don't always know that for sure. And something you said that speaks volumes, I think, of the company is just how responsive and proactive the service center has been. We've seen mixed reactions with Tesla in our service history, where we've had a vehicle at Tesla and we're like, hello, is it still there? We haven't heard from you guys in a while. Like it's really cool that they've really tried to keep you up to date on things. And so I do feel like Rivian's really good at taking care of the customer, from what I can tell. Obviously there's probably outlier stories in all regards, so it's nice that you don't have this sour taste in your mouth from Rivian. It's really just this vehicle. And it actually reminds me of a lot of my friends who own let's say German performance cars. They are scared if something breaks, and maybe it's the repair cost or the challenge of the repair. And it's like, it's not quite the same as maybe fixing like a Japanese car sometimes, but it doesn't mar their feelings towards the company. It's just like, this sometimes comes with the territory. And so it is sad and hard when you love the company, but your specific product is not super reliable. And I've felt that. It's kind of a different story with our VinFast that Francie has. I lived with that for a while, and it broke down on me, and that was hard because I didn't have a service center anywhere near. But that's a little different because I don't even love the company necessarily. It was just like a tool, and once it left me stranded, I was like, I don't really want to drive this anymore. So I do understand that, and it is hard because, like you said, now that they've replaced the drive units, fix the HVAC, which those are huge components of owning a car. It wasn't like your sound system wasn't working, which for me is a big part of owning a car anyways, but that's a lot of componentry. And then the leaking and the ceiling, like, you're right, maybe once they fix that, it'll be perfect forever, but it is hard once, even just the drive unit part. I mean, that's when a lot of people probably would have said, I'm done. And so it does speak to me that you're like, well, really love this thing. Of course, you bought it, and your wife loves it. And you mentioned somewhere in some reply, happy wife, happy life. So yes. It's like, as long as she loves it, then it's great. But if she also starts feeling this lack of like trust and enthusiasm around it, and if you drive it and you have this subconscious feeling of what's going to happen next, if anything, but what, then that's hard. Yeah. So what's the status right now? You still have it, but like
well, like, we are on vacation this week, so the vehicle's sitting at our home in the garage because I'm afraid to leave it outside because of the rain. But and actually, this is another point where Rivian was very great. I did get a phone call first thing on Monday morning from the Glen Burnie Service Center. They wanted to get it in right away. And I was like, unfortunately, we're going to be traveling. I can't do it. So our appointment is next Tuesday to drop it off and have them start to do the repairs. And as you said, it's like, I love Rivian as a company, and I love their employees, and I love everything about it. And I'm pretty much all into the EV things. I think you and Kyle and Colton know that from us communicating over the past. My wife was kind of a newer adopter to EVs, and her Model X was her first EV. And, just like typical first EV person, a lot of range anxiety things, and had to walk her through how everything works. And then she got to a point where she said, oh, this is easy. I'm never going back. And there was a little bit of a learning curve going from Tesla to Rivian, but she adapted really well. But as I said in one of my comments to somebody, we've gone from range anxiety to usability anxiety. It's not like she's afraid to drive anywhere because she's like, oh, I might not be able to charge or run out of it. It's, I'm worried the vehicle's going to break down. And when you were mentioning before about companies like changing it in baked and half-baked products, I felt the product was really well done. The fit and finish on it were pretty good. The new interior was amazing. I wasn't in love with the electronic door versus the physical ones, but okay, whatever. But but no, it seemed very well. And but there were certain things that didn't feel as solid as my Gen 1 vehicle. And but okay, it's a little different. But and I also was going from an R1T to an R1S, so I don't know. Like, okay, does it feel that way because they're completely different platforms? But there's something that's happened with this particular R1S, and I've said that and prefaced it to a lot of people in the comments. I know lots of Rivian owners that are not experiencing any problems or had one hiccup and never experienced it again. I don't know if this was built at 4:55 on a Friday and people were thinking about the weekend, but something's wrong with this particular one. It's very much similar to what I've heard from your guys' Cybertruck and some of the early Cybertruck VINs. And because I kind of chuckle about that because I have a Cybertruck as well, and I've never had a problem with it other than the recalls for like, okay, come in and we'll check the sail piece or something. But
Right.
I fingers crossed I don't go down that road, but I think it happens to every one of these new manufacturers as well as the existing OEMs. I know people who've had GMCs or Fords or Chevys bought back or lemon lawed because they just were, I don't know. Sometimes things happen.
Yeah, it's a bad lemon, and it's like hard to predict, and you're just hoping you're not the one. And I've known people to buy even used early Teslas with like 400,000 miles, and it's like, by all states of what we understand, that should not even be on the road. It should all have broken by now. Yeah. But there's also lemons that are like in the other direction where you expect it all to be wrong and like somehow it's perfect. You just never know. So it's hard to hear. It's sad to hear. But it sounds like you may be looking to, at least for now, maybe switch away from Rivian and look at different options. Have you kind of thought about what might be next?
My wife, on Friday, we went and test drove the EX9, the Volvo EX90, and she absolutely loves it, and was very impressed with it. I'm having her check a few other things out because I want her to dial it in, and I'm also a little nervous because the EX90 is new too. So it's kind of like I said to her, "Are we jumping from the fire, the pan to the fire?" And hoping not, but we'll see. I'm not sure how what Rivian's going to do. I have done a little bit of research, and our vehicle in Pennsylvania, if the vehicle's out of service for more than 30 days within the first 12 months, it's considered a lemon. So I think this one definitely qualifies for that. It's been out of service longer. I would rather Rivian do similar to what Tesla did with you, where they just contact me and say, "Look, we understand this is not representative of our product or what we want the user experience to be, and let's buy it back from you," rather than having to go the other route.
Right.
But I just don't. I've had some people at Rivian reach out and they're like, "Well, service teams will take care of it. Service teams will take care of it." And I'm like, "That's great." But when you get to a point where it could be fixed, like you said, and never have another issue. But just the constant concern with it, I think, is just like soured us on it at this point in time.
Yeah, and you've lost a lot of time that could have been with it because of service, and so it's hard. It's sad, but hey, for what it's worth, I love the Volvo EX90. Although I hear your concerns, that's a very well established car maker, but a new product, and so it's like, okay, where does that fit in the realm of reliability? I mean, I told you how much I love sound systems. That's a insanely good sound system on wheels.
Yeah, I did the sound demo on it when we were there Friday, and I was like, "Oh my God." I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away.
Right. So I really hope future, Rivian's had issues with their sound systems being less good than the early Meridian ones. So I have high hopes for Rivian's future sound systems. I think they are more than capable of having a really good system. Maybe that was just a cost-cutting thing that they're now trying to walk back. Because I do think people have gotten into Rivians, especially when they first launched, and they were like, "Wow, this feels very Volvo-esque." Like, it seems like Volvo / Range Rover enthusiasts really like what Rivian's done. And so I'm really curious on future electrified Range Rovers and Land Rovers, but then also the future Rivian. And yeah, who knows? Maybe you'll be back, but also this is definitely.
I'm sure we will be back in a Rivian again. We like
Yeah.
the brand and we like the product a lot. Like I said, I loved my R1T, and no negativity against the company. I just think that at this point in time, it's like when you're in a bad relationship or you have a breakup. Sometimes you just need to go away for a little bit and kind of go and appreciate it again. And right now, it's not that we don't appreciate it or Rivian. It's just it's become weary and tiring, I think, and it just needs to be like my wife said. I want to be at peace with my vehicle, and in fairness to her, the last year's kind of been a whirlwind. Her Model X got demolished on the way between our tint shop and a paint place, and we weren't even involved driving. And the second the phone rang, I knew what the call was going to be. I was like, uh-oh. And so she went from that to waiting for her R1S to being really excited about her R1S to having boom, boom, boom. And I just think she just wants to, I don't want car drama. I just want a car. So
yeah, you're right. I think she's been through a lot, and maybe the vacation is a coincidence, but also at this point I would also take a vacation, clear the air, and then excited to see what's next. We'll definitely stay followed up on the story, and excited about whatever's next. And then like you said, future Rivians. I mean, I myself am very, very, very excited about R2 and the tweets that RJ keeps sprinkling out. They're just like teasers that make it even harder to wait. So we'll see.
Well, and that's the funny thing. Like besides owning an R1T and having an R1S, we also have two R2 reservations because we're kind of excited about them as well.
Right.
And I really wanted one for my daughter for when she graduated college, but I want to make sure they're going to work first. So
right. Yep. Well, it makes sense. Well, thanks for coming on, sharing the story, and
anytime.
If any of you guys watching have questions, leave them down below, or if you have similar experiences, or maybe you've had a rock solid R1. I've seen it all across the board. We both agree. We love the company, love what they stand for. It's just sometimes a lemon happens and it breaks our heart. But anyways, thanks for watching.